Hey everyone, welcome to Operations, the show where we look under the hood of companies in hypergrowth. My name is Sean Lane. One of the reasons we started this show was to offer up a place where operators could hear directly from those who had been there, done that before them, to skip the pain that our guests had endured and get the answers to the test. And in the 60 plus episodes we've produced, we've learned a lot from our guests. But if you're a regular listener to the show, you know that I also ask our experts where they learn. Where do they go for their own role models and their own growth? At the end of each episode, I ask each guest for the best book they've read in the last 6 months. So, over the course of the history of this show, we've compiled quite the list of books. And on today's episode, I'm going to highlight some of those books and the themes raised by our guests. And look, these aren't all just straight business books. In fact, we've got a pretty wide variety offered up by our guests. So instead of trying to fit all of their answers into a single category, I've done my best to actually group them into different categories, from things like scaling companies to sales and marketing to history to leadership and personal development. On today's episode, I'm going to spotlight some of my favorite answers from each of those categories. If you want the full list, we've compiled them all for you on Drift's blog and included the link in the show notes. Okay, just like we do at the end of each episode, let's hear what our guests are reading. Ready? Here we go. Best book you've read in the last 6 months?
So we just did Brave New Work, which is a great book by a consulting firm called The Ready. They do transformational processes, and they have a thing called the Business OS, which is about finding tensions in your business. And it's a great way to bring leadership together and talk high level, and also find out how you can kind of build an organization that people want to work at.
Best book you've read in the last 6 months?
Best book I've read in the last 6 months is probably Leading Sales Development by Jeremy Donovan and Aaliyah Homison. Super fantastic. It's very much focused on leading sales development as opposed to like the specific like tactical implementation of it. It's like one level up, and it has a bunch of really great like statistical analysis and studies in it as well. So it's very both practical and academic, and has a lot of like science in it, but also art. And two very high quality sales development leaders wrote it.
Best book you've read in the last 6 months?
Radical Candor. It was actually recommended by my...
Right on the tip of your tongue.
Yeah, it was actually recommended by my manager, and actually a lot of our leadership team recommended it, and we're actually going to be doing, I think, a leadership session on it. But yeah, I up to this point, I've managed teams for so long, but I have never read that book. And I've been hearing more and more about it, and somebody, recommended it here at Clarity to me. And so, yeah, top of mind for me.
Best book you've read in the last 6 months?
Sure. That's a great question. I would say...
Never Split the Difference?
What is it? I'm late to the game, but I read that negotiation book, Never Split the Deal, or Never Split the Difference, yes. I'm trying to think of who that's by.
There you go. All right.
Let me see.
Love it.
Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss.
Please.
It's an amazing book. I also
I don't know that one.
really like, I'm going to give you a second one because this one's really good too. Indistractable by Nir Eyal. Yes, it's really awesome. I think especially for the ops audience, because it talks about being able to focus in a world of so many distractions like Slack and all that stuff. So I've been reading that, and it's been really awesome. Just
favorite part about
some of those
working in
practices and see how it's helpful in getting stuff done.
Best book you've read in the last 6 months?
Oh wow. The best book I've read actually is nothing to do with business. It's Factfulness. I think I got the heading right. And it's really about social economics and classes of poverty, and how actually the advancement of the world as a society actually is progressed so much more than what the cable news networks would make you feel, right? It's a great perspective of just the world and how far we've come on healthcare and death rates and poverty. It really opened my eyes to thinking about the world in a way that I found to be really enlightening and inspiring.
Best book you've read in the last 6 months?
The best book I've reread in the last 6 months is The Big Short.
Oh, interesting.
So I enjoy books that are vaguely entertaining and have some financial components to it. And so I was particularly interested in the financial collapse. My husband works in the financial industry, and I went through it on the other side. And so reading about it and kind of reading it from the author's perspective and kind of remembering it from my side. And I think there's a lot of things we're watching in this market as well. So, but it is a more entertaining read for me.
Best book you've read in the last 6 months?
Oh God, I haven't been reading lately. This is like a trick question. Okay, the best book I've read in the last 6 months is actually a book on growing garlic, where it's this farmer. He was actually in a Netflix documentary, and
it's amazing.
He has this very poetic way about talking about life on the farm, and it's eerily similar to your life as a startup founder. And it's about like all of these like romantic things about like hard work and nerdery. It's a really good read, whether you're interested in growing garlic or not.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you remember the name of it?
Let me look it up quick. It's called A Garlic Testament.
A Garlic Testament. All right, we got to add it to the list. Add them all to the list. Reminder, if you want to see the full list of over 50 books compiled from our previous guests, check out the blog post on Drift's website. Again, the link is in the show notes. Thank you to all our guests who have told us what they've been reading over the course of the history of this show. By the way, if you're wondering, for me, the non-business book that I've read in the past 6 months that's the best is a book called Project Hail Mary, great fiction read. And the business book that I've enjoyed in the last 6 months is Range. If you liked what you heard today, make sure you are subscribed to our show so you get a new episode in your feed every other Friday. Also, if you feel like you learned something from today's episode, leave us a 6-star review on Apple Podcasts, 6-star reviews only. We'll be back with a regular guest for our next episode. That's going to do it for me. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.